This isn't just another miter saw station. It's fully customized with clever storage, dust control, and precision features. And yeah, it just might be the best looking miter saw station on YouTube. Stick around and I'll show you exactly how I built it from the ground up, starting with a big problem I had to solve. I'm facing two challenges when putting the miter saw station cabinets right here. Challenge number one, this curb is about 5 inches high, mostly on this side, a little bit higher on that side, but it is level. The ground slopes this way. If I lay like this, I can feel the blood slowly rushing to my head. So I'm gonna have to accommodate for that. The cabinets have to have a 5-inch toe kick with shims on that side. If I didn't, let's say I did a 3-inch or 4-inch toe kick, I would have to cut a notch out of the back of my cabinet so they'll fit up against this wall. That's not going to happen. These cabinets are going to sit right on top of this curb. And speaking of right on top, this is the last project where I anticipate having to do this move right here. I really won't miss that at all. Cutting out the plywood pieces for the toe kicks is pretty straightforward, but the height of these toe kicks are not the standard height. I have step-by-step plans to build this miter saw station, but I have made adjustments so anyone can build them at standard size. Because these toe kicks are 2 inches higher than normal, that means those 2 inches will be taken away from the height of the cabinets. The plans that will be available in the video description below will have those 2 inches added back into the cabinet with standard 3-inch high toe kicks. One of the beauties of toe kicks is you don't have to wipe up any glue. You can make as much of a mess as you want, especially on the inside, because all this is going to be covered and you won't see anything. It's just here for structural support and so that my shoe doesn't run into my cabinets. Before I assemble this cabinet, I want to edge band all of the edges that are going to be exposed with 7/8 inch maple edge banding. That's a mouthful. The reason why we go with 7/8 of an inch is because it gives you more of a hangover just in case it doesn't line up right. It's just easier to do, and this is what I highly recommend. Even though these are birch cabinets, everything that will be exposed and seen when the doors are shut is going to be all maple.
3, 2, 1.
Cutting dados for the mid-panel divider in such a large cabinet makes assembly much easier because it simply self-aligns. I had to creep up on that perfect fit, one rip cut at a time, until the fit was what they call in the industry, pure Goldilocks. My plan is to only build these cabinets once, and if I ever move, which is definitely in the plan down the road, then I will take them with me. Cabinets typically don't need to be assembled with glue, but to prevent any racking in a moving van on a long drive with unpredictable turns and road conditions, I want these cabinets to be as strong as reasonable. I say reasonable because glue and 16-gauge brad nails will likely be plenty strong enough. I could follow with screws as well, but I'm not crazy. Initially, when I designed these cabinets, I made a mistake by not accounting for the dados, so my mid-panel divider was a bit too small. So with a little glue and painter's tape for clamps, I was able to extend it and no one will ever be the wiser. From there, I pocket hole secured the top braces and then set everything up just to get a feel for the layout. This miter saw station will have T-track, and I want the T-track screws to have something more to bite into other than just the 3/8 inch thickness of the countertop that remains. So that's why I'm pocket hole securing this third brace. With a little more forethought, I would have made just one large front brace. I made the drawer boxes out of pre-finished half-inch imported birch plywood. The keyword import actually means a cheaper price and frankly cheaper quality, but they do great for shop projects like this. I cut 1/4 inch deep and 1/4 inch wide dados in all of the drawer pieces for the 1/4 inch bottoms to slide into. Each dado only needed 3 crosscuts on the table saw without a dado stack. If you're interested in knowing how I make drawer boxes, then may I introduce to you me. Constructing the box, real simple. You got your platform and your 3 sides. I've developed kind of a pattern where I just kind of set them all up this way, where this is the bottom and the top, left and right. Or I guess you say front and back, really, left and right. I'm using Titebond 3. You don't have to. This is basically the only thing that I have. I just apply glue into these dado joints. I don't start at the edge. I start about 2 inches in just because it really doesn't need it the whole entire way. And it eliminates any squeeze out on the bottom if you just leave that gap. You really don't have to use glue. I am only in these areas. And then it's a matter of just placing them right in the groove, or actual dado is what it is. They come together quite nicely. Sometimes the plywood likes to bend a little bit, which is fine. I do the first 3 sides, and I want to make sure that the seams all come together nicely, that there's no gaps, that this piece is not creating gaps right here. When I'm cutting the width of this piece, I like to go a 1/2 inch longer than your front piece, and then I subtract 1/8 of an inch. That way it's not perfect. It gives you a little wiggle room. If you're not using a flat tooth blade, then your 1/4 inch that you cut into the dados is actually a little less than a 1/4 inch. So that's why I do that. Once I have these 3 pieces here, I'm using 18 gauge brad nails that are 1 inch long. And then just make sure you have your seams just lined up perfectly. You could use a clamp if you want, but I don't think there's really a need for that. I go top, and then I go bottom. Once I feel that they're flush, or plumb, or whatever you call it, make sure you move your fingers out of the way, and know that you have a 1 inch clearance. And then I go to the other corner. Once I'm done with these 2 corners, I'm gonna flip around facing me, and we'll just slide in this last piece into the dado. Goes in pretty easy. And then nail in your corners. And that is pretty much the easiest way to construct a drawer. I use these cheap drawer slides from Amazon. They are full extension, soft close, 22-inch slides. Anything I use in this build will have a link in the description if you're interested in purchasing them. It helps support the channel. To install the slides, I marked the center point to the slides onto the drawer box sides. You can technically attach the slides anywhere high or low on the sides of the drawer boxes. It won't affect the function of the drawers. The only consideration is how it looks when you pull the drawers out. Having all of them in the same place or height is what matters most for best appearance. After marking the front and back endpoints of the drawer slides, I used a straight edge between those points to mark a line where I can screw the fasteners to attach the slides. I place the slides where I want them to be and then press with an awl where each screw will be fastened. This makes drilling a little easier so the drill bit doesn't wander on me. I can skip using the pencil to mark since the awl does basically both jobs. To install the part of the drawer slide that attaches to the cabinet, I started from the bottom and worked my way up. I put a 1/2 inch piece of plywood on the very bottom to act as a spacer. This is so the drawer isn't dragging on the bottom of the cabinet. For the next drawer up, I would put spacers on top of the sides of the drawers, and then that same 1/2 inch piece of plywood. Then I would place the drawer slides on top of the 1/2-inch plywood and secure the slide to the side of the cabinet. Next thing you know, the second drawer is installed. Pretty easy. It was just a matter of rinse and repeat from this point on for the remaining drawers, and I had a lot of them, 24 to be exact. The spacing in between the drawers wasn't exactly the same for each drawer, so I had to custom cut some of the spacers. I fixed this in the PDF build plans. It is much simpler where you just need one size spacer because all the spacing is uniform. With all of the drawer slides installed, this was the perfect time to take all 24 of the drawers out of the cabinets so I could properly install the toe kicks and cabinets to the grounded wall. You probably didn't even realize that I had not done this yet. I didn't want to scratch up the cabinets even though no one would see the underside, but with the help from some moving blankets, I was able to get all of them set aside on the other side of the shop. With my trusty shop-made shim jig, I was able to make my own shims. There are store-bought versions that I hear work great, but in the spirit of overspending in all of the other areas of this build, this was the one way I enjoyed really DIYing it. It's fairly standard for garage floors to slope down towards the garage door exit. So I knew the shims would have a more involved impact on the left cabinet than the right cabinet. But with a level, a brad nailer, and my oscillating multi-tool, I could make quick work of leveling the toe kicks so they sit just a hair above the cement curb against my garage wall. Notice how the left toe kick sits so much higher than the right. I hid the birch toe kicks with a nice maple fascia and secured it by brad nailing it. I recommend cutting the height of this piece oversized. That way, you do what I did and come back with a trim router to flush trim it flush with the birch toe kick. This is one of those really satisfying moments when you start to feel like you really know what you're doing. With the toe kicks shimmed and level, and with the help of my always faithful helper Jonas, we got the cabinets up on the toe kicks and prepared them for securing to the wall by using a chalk line to make sure they are in line with each other. I didn't really need the chalk, but the string is what is really important. So all you really need is a string and a way to make it tight. Walls are never perfect, and this garage wall is probably an extreme example. The farther it moves to the right, the deeper the wall is from the cabinets. So I really had to be aggressive with the shims, but that's where my oscillating multi-tool really saves the day. I played around with different size scrap pieces I had laying around, and off camera, I even thinned some of them in my planer to get the perfect thickness. Things are starting to come together around here, and I'm pretty pumped because this is a place that I want to be in, that I want to spend time in. It's these little details that make it worth it. I need to put a tabletop here, and I want to scribe it to the wall. I don't want gaps, and neither should you. So I'm going to take this 1/4-inch piece of plywood and put it up against the wall and use this scribing tool called the Perfect Butt and create a profile that matches the curve of the wall because it's not straight. There's a gap here, it touches over here, and it touches over here. I'm gonna do the same thing with this piece over here, join them together, and create a template that I can now cut out the tabletop. Once I created the scribe line, I took it to the bandsaw and carefully cut along that line. This could be done with a jigsaw, and some even do it with a belt sander. Whatever you use, it just takes a little patience and a bit of finesse to get it perfect. I ain't gonna lie, that looks pretty good to me. And then with a little double-sided tape, I had myself a template. I stuck the template to an oversized piece of plywood and then template routed with a flush trim bit. I cut out the rest of that countertop with my track saw, taking note to leave enough overhang for the front and right side. Taking account for the full overlay drawer fronts, I traced the correct size overhang so that I could cut with my jigsaw almost to that line, and then finish it off with a flush trim router, both on the front and on the right side of the countertop. And now I have a perfectly cut countertop. in an imperfect space. And of course, what I did with the left cabinet countertop, I did the same with the right countertop. The only difference was scribing just the back wall and having to flush trim the other 3 edges. You'll notice I didn't secure the countertops, but more on that later. The next step was to construct the mid-cabinet. The way I built this cabinet was a little different than the side cabinets, which was with glue and brad nails. Cabinets don't have to be made with glue. Screws are plenty strong enough, but the side cabinets are made so that I can transport them in the future if I ever decide to move, which I kind of plan on doing, because these cabinets are coming with me wherever I go. The cabinet, the mid cabinet that is only made with screws and no glue. The reason for this is because if I ever get a different miter saw, I want to be able to replace or adjust some of the pieces so it can fit. I can make the sides shorter, I can replace them to be bigger. Sure, it takes work, but it's a whole lot better than contending with a glued plywood butt joint and even having to build a completely new cabinet. I really didn't need to secure the mid cabinet to the wall. It was much easier to just fasten it to each of the side cabinets. If your mid cabinet is perfect, then it will fit perfectly. But I had to, off camera, remove and resecure the right cabinet so there were no gaps when installing the mid cabinet. So in retrospect, it's probably best just to wait until all of your cabinets are built before securing them to each other or the back wall. If you have ever used pocket hole screws, then you know the one very annoying trait they all possess, and that is the wood can easily wander if it is not completely secure. That is why I clamped this scrap ply underneath when securing the top cabinet brace. Just a little tip for y'all. If you're looking at that one little brace and thinking, there is no way that countertop is going to remain level, it is going to sag big time. Well, I have you covered, because that is why I laminated 2 pieces of 2.5-inch wide plywood together and installed them sideways. Actually, I made 2 of these braces, and I placed them right where the heaviest points of the miter saw sit. Now my heavy miter saw won't sag at all. And for peace of mind, I pocket hole secured them on the front and the back of each end of the braces. It was probably overkill, but I didn't want to take any chances. Fitting the mid-cabinet countertop was similar to the other countertops. I cut some 1/4-inch plywood to make templates, scribed the 3 sides with the perfect butt to make a 3-sided template, cut along the scribe pencil line on the bandsaw, double-side taped the 3 plywood pieces together, take that template over to a much larger piece of plywood, trace it out, cut it out, and then route it out. And there you have it, a perfectly scribed countertop for an imperfect size space. At this point, the miter saw station is starting to really take shape and looks like I've actually built something useful. And as you have probably guessed, it needs some drawer faces. Whether you are using a cabinet grade table saw or just a track saw like me, it doesn't really matter. The track saw takes a little longer to set everything up, but the end result is the same. I suggest edge bending all of your faces after you cut them out, and don't forget to keep them organized as well. And be sure to take your time measuring them just right. And then it'll be time to attach those drawer faces, which can be the challenging part. Attaching full overlay drawer faces to frameless cabinets can be a challenge. Let me show you how I did it. For this installation, there are a few things that you're going to need, so let me go over really quick what I'm using. You'll need carpet tape, double-sided. This is my favorite brand. A deck of cards, a straight edge blade. This is an Olfa utility knife. Number 8 1-inch screws. These are Torx bit. A drill with, of course, a well-charged battery. I have this really cool quick change drill bit. That's very helpful. Highly recommend it. Link in the description. 2 small clamps, a homemade spacer, and of course, your drawer faces. This particular cabinet poses its own unique challenges. We have 2 sets of drawers, and one large cabinet. I can't take a clamp and hook it to the back because there is no space. This is a 2 plywood piece. I just brad nail it together. It gives me plenty of space. My floor, and your floor might be like this depending on where you're working, is sloped this way. This is level, this is not. So I have cards here and shimmed it so that it is level. I already stacked all of them up with spacers prior to doing this. So do that first so that you get all your spacing right, and then you can come in and start installing so you know exactly where to go. One little thing I'm going to do is put a small piece of tape right here, flare it off the edge so it's easy to remove. Now I'm just going to stack these exactly where I want them. And this first one is going to cling onto that piece of tape so it gives stability. I already figured out that I personally like a gap of 3 cards. So I'm going to place them right here on each side. 3 and 3. You can actually buy little round spacers that work great too, but everyone probably has some playing cards. Not everyone wants to spend some money for something that they already have laying around the house that they can use. I find the perfect position working my way from the bottom to the top. Once I establish this, I will install and screw them in from the top, working my way down. This poses its own unique challenges because where do you put the clamps? How do you keep them stabilized? It can become very tricky. So this is what I'm doing in this particular situation. I'm a big fan of this full overlay look. I think it's so classy. I think if you get your gaps right, it looks smooth and sexy. Honestly, I know the shaker style doors are very popular. I think this has a more modern look and I love it. Let's get this top drawer installed. So what we're going to do is we're going to gently remove these spacers and remove this drawer. I'm going to apply some double-sided tape. You could do one whole strip. I personally like to do 1, 2, and 3. Make sure your tape is well pressed in. Then remove the top film layer. Now, put your spacers back where they belong. This one's a little tricky just because this drawer sets a little bit lower. And I only use 2 spacers for this drawer here. The rest are all 3. The drawer face might sit a little recessed from your frame. So this is where this becomes real important to have this middle tape here. Place your drawer face exactly where you want it. Now where it's at right now, you can see it moves, so it's not adhering to that tape. So what I'm going to do is press in the middle really tight. That top is not secure yet, so I want to really press it in. So it's got to adhere to that tape. So now it should be creating contact while maintaining these gaps. So we're going to remove this spacer. Be careful so these don't fall. And then I'm actually going to remove this spacer as well for the drawer below it. So we need to remove this to get it out of the way. Pull this out. And now keeping this secure, I'm going to grab underneath and I'm going to pull out and press. So now it's got full contact and it should be secure, but I still want to clamp it. Once clamped, I'm just going to drill in where I want those screws to be. Make sure these screws are not anywhere close to where your hardware is going to be. Got my number 8 1-inch screws. And now you can remove your clamps and check your reveals. Another tip is if it doesn't stick the first time, you can always apply 2 and 3 layers of that double-sided tape. It's a lot easier that way. Perfect. For the second drawer, we're going to go ahead and apply tape again. In fact, for this one, I'm going to go ahead and just put 2-ply. We're going to put our spacers back in, 3 cards, and let's set it right where we want it. Give it a really good press. Let's double check our reveals. Looks good. If we remove this and it doesn't sink, then we have adhesion. Awesome. So let's remove the one below. Pull out the bottom drawer. Pressing, making sure we got good contact, and we're going to clamp it in place. Remove the clamps, and let's see how it looks. Bingo. Perfect. Check out these drawer faces. Pretty slick, right? Well, before I put these doors in, I want this tabletop cut to size and edge banded. So now that I got these faces up, I'm gonna make a mark here, cut along that line, and then edge band everything. I might even put some edge banding in these sides here because this is gonna be exposed and I wanna fill this little itty bitty gap. The edge banding just might do the trick. If you are watching this video because you purchased the PDF build plans, take note that it is best to cut out your mid-cabinet doors once you get to this point in the build and not in advance. There can be slight variances once you put it all together, and getting the perfect fit is ultimately what you want. I don't go over it right here, but if you click on the video link in the top right-hand corner now, there is a link to a great video on how to install cabinet doors. I was checking out Michael Alm's miter saw station, and he had these little cubby things right here, and then the table gets to extend even farther, closer to the miter saw table. You know, they say imitation is the best form of flattery. These 3-sided boxes serve a great purpose in bridging the countertops to the miter saw tabletop. Not only that, but they make great cubbies for whatever you want to put in the drawers. Eventually, I ended up securing these to the mid-cabinet countertop by screwing a fastener from underneath straight into the edge of the plywood. There are no drawer slides or fancy drawer mechanism. They just have a friction fit, and you can make them as deep as you want. The top should extend all the way to the wall, and because it is only just over 5 inches wide, there was no need to scribe it to the wall, which made building these 2 cubbies a lot easier. Also, I'll tell you this now because I don't highlight it later, but these cubbies will have a T-track, and the screw that keeps the T-track in place actually extends through the plywood. And since the screw sticks out into the drawer space, it acts as a stop. So if I pull out the drawer, it won't come all the way out. I thought it was kind of a happy accident. Even though I used plywood for these drawers, I stepped it up a notch and made these cubby drawer faces out of solid maple. It really gave them a nice touch. There is some leeway with the angles and depth of the drawers, but in case you were wondering, I cut mine at 63 degrees. The PDF plans also go over these details, but I like how it really doesn't have to be the exact same as my dimensions. Grab that. Before I move on to anything else, I want to pre-countersink all of my countertop screw holes. In order to do that, I need to know where my T-track will be. I used a carpenter's chalk line to snap in place exactly where I want it, which is a little in front of the miter saw fence. With a little help from Mrs. Sawdust, who held the end of the line off camera, I was able to dial in the perfect placement. And countersinking was a breeze with my brand new countersink bit with a depth stop. This is one of those tools I should have bought a long time ago. Placement and color of the screws is no accident, by the way. I carefully measured the perfect spacing for the best look while still capturing solid countertop stability. Routing the T-track on the right side cabinet was pretty straightforward. I just needed to clamp down the mid-cabinet cubby with a pipe clamp. Throw down a straight edge and take 3 passes with a 3/4 inch straight bit until I reached the depth of 3/8 of an inch. And I used this wobble technique with the router. You see, any deviation from the straight edge would have been a mistake. Even though that space will be filled with something I'm going to add later, regardless, I thought it was worth the challenge to get it right. The left cabinet was a little more challenging. I used a bar clamp to press in between the mid-cabinet cubbies so the countertop and left cubby wouldn't move. The router bit wouldn't reach the entire countertop because the wall was in the way, so I had to remove the countertop and take it to my workbench, line it up just right, and finish off 3 more small passes. Fortunately, I nailed it. I found the perfect T-track for my black on maple vibe I've been going for. Honestly, I just love these colors and really feel they are totally underutilized in interior design. But I digress. They are made of aluminum or aluminium or however you say it. Fortunately, you can cut this material on the miter saw. Just go slow and make sure your piece is stable and against the fence. The 48-inch pieces were not long enough, so I had to purchase extra 12-inch T-track to get it all the way to the miter saw. Before I actually secure this into the tabletop, I have another thing that I'm going to do with this tabletop near the T-track. It's a little surprise, not just yet. You're going to have to wait just a little longer, and I know you're going to totally dig it. But before I get into that, I need to put on the drawer pulls. This is everything that you're going to need. Let me go over these real quick. 3 pieces of scrap. The first piece is going to be the thickness of whatever you made your drawers out of. So most drawers are 1/2-inch drawers. This is going to be the thickness of your drawer face. And this piece is going to be 3/4 inch ply. The width of this is going to be more than half the height of your tallest drawer. We'll get to these later. You're going to need your hardware, of course, a pencil, combination square, painter's tape, something to measure with, an extra piece of scrap, a drill with the appropriate drill bit, a brad nailer or something to secure. There's other options as well. 2 6-inch clamps, or you can go 12-inch. 2 deep throat clamps, and you only need these if you have deep drawers. Otherwise, you can just stay with these kind of clamps, but we're going to use both. Also, the appropriate screw that goes with your hardware. This is 1.5 inches because I have a 3/4 inch drawer face and a 1/2-inch drawer, so 1.5 inches is what we need. Let's start off by making the jig. Take your first piece, the 3/4 inch piece, make sure it's all flush with the edges, and we're just going to tack this in place with the brad nailer. Then you're going to take your 1/2-inch piece and do the same thing. You're probably wondering, well, how wide do I make these pieces? You just want them wide enough so this piece can easily clip on the front of your drawer face. The thickness may vary from drawer to drawer, so make sure it can hang on the most shallow drawer from here to here. Next, with this jig, we're going to find the center point, and honestly, it doesn't even have to be the exact center. It just has to be somewhere in the ballpark. So if we measure here, this is almost 20 inches. We'll go 10. We'll go a little less than that, so that puts us at about right there. With our combination square, I'm going to draw a line. And I would even transfer that line to the underside. I need to find center on this drawer face. We're going to start with the big one at the bottom, but we don't need to have it inside the cabinet. Let's make this easy on ourselves and remove it. I just want to find about where center is. So this is just over 23 inches long. Half of 23 is 11.5. So we're gonna go 11.5. Now we need to find the exact center. So this is just over 23 inches. So we're just gonna go with 24 divided by 2 is 12. That brings us to right there. And we'll flip it around this way and go 12 in the opposite, right there. Do halfway in between these two, right there. Now that we have our center mark, we're gonna make a line all the way up. So we're basically gonna make a line so it hits somewhere in between here at the halfway point. And then just find center from here to here. And I'm not gonna go through all the details, but just find center of your board and that's where we can work from there. So we have our center mark and we need to know what the distance from here to here is. And for me, it is 5 3/8. So that's good to know. So we're gonna take our jig and we're gonna hook it to the top, press all the way down, and you want to line up these lines that you made. So they're flush or plumb or dead on with each other. So now this point to the center of this will be 5 3/8. So we just simply measure this. That's going to give us 3 3/8. So we'll just add 2 inches to here. And that gives us center. Now with our center point here, just take any tool that's going to draw you a square straight line. Take your hardware so you know where the center point is. We just need to find the distance from here to here and here to here, and I'll let you do that on your own, but basically just measure center to center, divide in half, mark here, mark there. Now we're going to drill our pilot holes. You can use a drill. If you have a drill press, use your drill press, and that can ensure that it's super straight, but a drill will do. We don't have to have this sitting up like this. It's actually probably be easier now if we just put it back inside, but before we do that, I'm going to take a piece of tape and put it right across that line where the holes are going to drill into, and that's just going to help get cleaner holes when we drill in. Not a necessary step, but it is a pretty good one. So let's put this back inside. Now this is a crucial step. We're going to take this and just hang it right here, but if we just drill into these holes, what's going to happen is this on the inside of your drawer. And to prevent that, that's why we have this backer piece. So we're gonna put this right here. But first we gotta make sure we get this in the perfect spot. So you're gonna line up this line with the line that we drew so we know it's perfectly centered. Now this is where our C-clamps are gonna come in handy. So we're gonna secure this, and this is just big enough. We're gonna secure this right behind it. We're gonna give it a nice squeeze. You want it nice and snug. And then drill your holes. Let's check it out and see how we did. Here we go. Those holes look really good on the outside. Let's check the inside. Oh yeah. Those are beautiful. With that same jig and that same process, I'm gonna go ahead and do these other 3 bottom drawers, and then I'll show you what we're gonna do to that jig so that we can do these other size drawers. Just like that, the rest are done. All I had to do was take this jig, hook it onto the front of the drawer face. As long as I could find that center line to line this up with, just drill the holes and that's all you gotta do. Now I'm gonna work on these other drawers and show you what we do with this jig. These drawers are a little smaller, but we're gonna hook this on the front just like this. Make sure it's touching flush here and back here. We need to cut this down to size. We're gonna cut it more than halfway and smaller than the shelf. So probably about right there. That's a good spot. So now we're just gonna do the same thing, but we're dealing with a smaller jig and a smaller drawer. So when moving to the smaller size drawer face, you just cut down your jig. I'm gonna put in the rest of these. It's gonna be really simple now because I have the jig already made. Just gotta make sure I line up that line with the line that I put here on the green tape. I'll then cut it down again and do these last 3, 6, 9, 12 drawers, and I'm gonna show you what it looks like at the very end. Not too shabby. Perfect alignment every time. This miter saw station looks amazing. It's not even done yet. I got so much more to do. This jig is free and simple using scrap wood that's already in your shop. Make sure this line is perfectly aligned. Make sure it's flush on the sides, and you got it. And on that note, while you have all of your hardware out, don't forget to install the door handles. Couple of tips to keep in mind. Painter's tape helps when marking your area, and don't forget to clamp a piece on the back side so you don't get blowout when you drill the holes. There's nothing more disappointing than getting this far and then blowing out your beautiful plywood doors because you forgot this step. Earlier, you may have noticed that I laid the T-track, but I didn't fasten it to the countertop, and this is the reason why. I milled down this hard maple to 6 thick ruler-like strips. Then I took it over to my all-in-one laser engraving station where my X-Tool S1 laser hangs out and did a double pass deep laser engrave. You guessed it, this is a ruler that I will embed into the countertops. I needed the engraving to be deep enough so I could fill it with black tinted epoxy. Total Boat sent me this epoxy kit like 4 or 5 years ago, and I have finally got around to using it. I had been waiting for the perfect project, and this was it. Also, I learned that the Total Boat epoxy shelf life is quite impressive. The most challenging part was dialing in each of the 3 segments of the ruler so no inch was too long or too short. Otherwise, that would throw off the entire ruler. If I had a laser engraver that was 48 inches wide, then maybe I could do it. Now that I think of it, this laser has an attachment that allows for laser engraving of long pieces, but I don't have that attachment. Anyway, I had to make several teeny tiny shaves until it was just right. Then I would compare it to my tape measure, just because I know through experience building multiple projects that it is very accurate. Once I dialed in the inches, I could make some adjustments on the width of the rulers. So with a little touch-up with the table saw and with the help of a featherboard or 2, I was in business. Inlaying this ruler really is one of those specialty sort of add-ons, and even though I have PDF digital build plans that show you how to build this miter saw station, the plans do not include any details of how to make this ruler. So hopefully, if you're interested in making your own ruler, this video can act as a visual aid and give you enough direction of how to do it yourself. And using the router in the correct direction, I routed out a channel deep enough in the left and right countertops with multiple passes with that same 3/4 inch router bit. The key is light passes, take it slow. Oh, and guess what? I'm using a Harbor Freight bit, and I've been using the same one for the last 5 years, so take that for what it's worth. Nothing like a good test fit. Am I right or am I right? Or am I right? You're probably wondering, what did I do to secure this ruler in place? Well, I'm glad you asked. So let me go through it. Step 1. Apply double-sided tape. Step 2. Stick ruler in place right next to the T-track, which, by the way, is still not fastened, but it is wedged in a bit. Step 3. Take that countertop to your workbench and flip it over. Step 4. Mark down the middle of where your ruler sits and use an awl to impress where each of your screws will fasten. Step 5. Countersink and drill every one of those marks, making sure your depth is set not to go all the way through. Step 6. Fasten each 5/8 inch screw. Step 7. Transfer over and flip upside down the associated mid-cabinet cubby and place the short piece T-track in its place. Step 8. Countersink, drill, and fasten the same screws. And finally, step 10. Get help to carefully flip and transfer the countertop back to the cabinet. Help is important because you don't want the weight of the cubby to damage the ruler, since their only connection is the ruler. I skipped step 9 because 10 steps just sounds better than 9. It's going to be so nice to be able to put my pieces down and just know exactly where to cut. I could have done down to 1/32 or 1/16, but 1/8 was just fine for me. I don't need to get that precise with my miter saw cuts, and if I do, I always got the tape measure. If I did it that refined, I probably wouldn't be able to fill it all in with epoxy like I did, so an 1/8 of an inch increments is just fine for this project. At this point in the build, I felt it was time to create some access points for the cords and hose. How big of a hole you drill depends on the size of your plugs and hose. Not the actual wire, but the plug. I had some leftover grommets from another project, so I figured it was time to put them to use. But before any cords go through those grommets, I had some figurative loose ends to tie up by finally securing the T-track to the countertops. Honestly, it was quite satisfying, and I can't deny that I love the black screws on black T-track look. It's one of those minor details that probably I'll only ever really notice. Oops, I forgot one more hole to drill. Actually, this is the one for the hose. And this is my one guilty pleasure of this build. What you're about to see is a bit of a no-harm mistake. I was so excited about my drilled holes for the hose and cables that I totally forgot that I don't need to be threading the miter saw cable through these holes. I only need to thread the dust extractor cable. The miter saw is supposed to be plugged into the front of the dust extractor because when I start the miter saw, the extractor will turn on automatically. And thanks to this little 3D printed elbow hose adapter from Amazon, I was able to connect my hose to the miter saw and prevent it from hitting the back wall. It didn't fit perfectly, but with a few laps around with some painter's tape, it was as snug as can be. And if you want one of those adapters or any other items from this entire build, check out the video description for links so you can purchase them for yourself. Every miter saw station needs one of these. You can spend anywhere from a ton of money to almost nothing for a stop block. In this case, I had some leftover hard maple from my scrap wood cart that I cut down to 15 inches long by 2 3/4 inches wide. I softened the edges with a sanding block, drilled a through hole with a backer piece for clean drilling on my drill press. Then I painted them black to match the maple on black color theme. and coated them 3 times with a water-based polyurethane that I applied with a foam brush. The T-bolts and hex knobs I used came with the T-track, so I didn't have to purchase anything I didn't already have. Let me show you how these work. The capabilities of this stop lock is actually pretty cool. Number one, you can flip it so that it can go all the way up against the blade and you can cut really small pieces. And then for the larger pieces, you can flip it around this way and you have plenty of space and this isn't in the way. But what happens if you gotta go all the way that way? The nice thing about this is it can flip this way and go up against the wall and you got that much clearance. And when you're not using it, you can simply just store it right here. I loved this idea so much that I made one for both sides of my miter saw. If any of you have watched my previous shop project videos, then you know I love a little unconventional painting. I'm definitely no artist, but if you can create the right geometric design, then I have learned that you can make something turn from ordinary to extraordinary. And since I already have these upper cabinets painted with this unique design, then I thought it was only fitting to mirror the same design below. The secret is a lot of painter's tape, a laser level, a full afternoon of time, and the right paint roller, and the perfect color, which, by the way, this one is called Blackout. It's the blackest color I could find. And if you are ready for the most satisfying part of this video, well, here goes. I think I just got the woodshop chills. Ooh, man. A little flustered there. Okay, so anyways, I gave the paint a few days to cure before coming back to tape and paint the contrasting black lines. Any paint that got in areas that I didn't want, especially the edges, were easily sanded off. In the end, the paint job was dead on perfect. Building a miter saw station with upper cabinets is essentially like building a kitchen, or at least a kitchenette. Just take away the sink and add a miter saw. So what would this kitchenette be, or miter saw station, without some lighting? And what kind of YouTuber would I be if I didn't use LEDs? I won't waste your time and show it here, but I wasted a bunch of time and money purchasing the wrong LEDs and accessories, such as these light diffuser channels you see me installing here. They were sort of a waste, but I just couldn't take them down after installing them, and the covers actually helped me measure the length that I needed for the FCOB LEDs that I ended up using, which were the third set of 3 different types of LEDs I purchased. The flexible coating you see here already acts as a diffuser, so using the covers would have been overkill. If you are interested in LED lighting for under cabinets or any project, maybe even having to cut and reconnect the correct wires and connectors, maybe you're hoping someone would just hold your hand through the purchasing process so you don't make the same mistakes that I did and end up cutting a bunch of wires and permanently clamping some connectors that Amazon would probably still take back, but you won't return them because it just feels wrong, and decided to just eat the cost because ultimately you have only yourself to blame, not once, but twice, with a wide variety of products, and end up giving those wrong LEDs to your son so he can just put them up in his room? If that is what you are interested in, then I will leave links in the video description below to all of the correct LEDs, wires, and connectors so you can have lights for your projects and not waste any time or money. Just trust me on this. I can't say enough good things about these LED lights. The LEDs are so close to each other, and that's why you get such a good glow. I have this little remote that comes with these lights, and it has a variety of different colors. The receiver's over there, so all I gotta do is just point in that direction. My favorite colors are basically the clear white and the warm yellow, which for working purposes, that's great. If I have music in the background, I can have the lights follow the beat of the music or even follow my voice on 3 different settings: rock, pop, and R&B. This isn't a full review, but I'm just saying, if you want these, click on the link in the description, grab yourself your own. If you've made it this far in the video, leave a comment below. Tell me what you think of this whole build. Start your comment with pale legs. I'll accept sexy legs as well. And in the top right-hand corner, there's a video that you're gonna watch next about how I built these upper cabinets. If you purchase the miter saw plans, it comes with free plans for these cabinets as well, so you have the entire 11-foot setup. Click on this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.